My name's Eladon, and I use they, them pronouns. My gender identity is complex. I don't fully understand what it is, and I don't expect other people to understand it if I don't. So for the most part, I identify as non-binary because while non-binary is accurate, it doesn't necessarily do justice to describe what's different about me from other non-binary people, because non-binary isn't just a third gender. Now it's a little different. I don't know if I'm maybe gender fluid, maybe agender, because my relationship with gender, it definitely changes day to day. For me, understanding my feelings and understanding how that related to my identity took a painfully long time. I think it was only feels painfully long because of how obvious it should have been. When I was young, I had thoughts like transgender individuals can have gender confirming or gender affirming surgery. And I can't have that because I'm not transgender. And that was really upsetting. In my head, at maybe 13 years old, I wished I could get gender affirming surgery, but knew I never could because it was only for transgender people. Didn't realize that maybe wanting that could have been a clue. I would always present a certain way, and when strangers would misgender me, I found it really exciting and thrilling. I had a list, I had a physical list every time someone misgendered me with the opposing gender to my assigned one at birth. I would go home and write it in my journal because I was so thrilled about it. And there was a lot of other signs. I know I always wanted to shop in different sections, and my mom was like, you can't shop there. Those clothes aren't for you. Those thoughts never left. I just adjusted my presentation to fit them. But for me growing up, anything related to LGBT was very taboo, very negative. Like I knew in my head if I was afraid. I had friends who were part of positive space in different groups at school. And while I personally didn't have anything against it, I was like afraid to openly support it because I knew I would get in trouble. Like there would be negative consequences for me. And also I could pass as just straight and not interested. So that's what I did. At one point in high school, I had gone to my friends and said, I'm not transgender, but could we try using this new nickname I've picked out and these pronouns? Which they didn't do, but the fact that I was thinking, hey, let's switch up my pronouns and not use my birth name, again, could have been a good sign. I became more and more aware that these were identities that existed, but I wouldn't connect them to myself. But I was also not the other. I didn't feel the need to do a binary transition, so I couldn't be trans. And it wasn't until quarantine, I moved out from my family home, and I was living with a roommate, and I started watching just YouTube videos. They were on my recommended, and a lot of them were transgender TikToks or memes, just like relatable transgender content. So I would start watching it and thinking, this isn't supposed to be relatable to me, but all of it was. So I kind of got the idea in my head. And then I found out about non-binary. And pretty much the moment I found out about non-binary, I went, oh, okay, this is what I am. It makes sense. And pretty much the moment I figured that out, I started making phone calls to my doctor first before my family. I was like, I want to get this train rolling. So probably within the same week of me learning what non-binary was and that it existed, I was making phone calls to get hooked up at the gender clinic, to get a gender therapist so I could start getting surgery and just doing all these things I'd dreamed of since being a kid. I was like, okay, this is on the table for me. It's happening, and it's happening as soon as possible. The phone calls to family came later. Life before learning that I was non-binary and that there was something I could do about it was difficult because I knew I was unhappy. I had not even really hit puberty yet, and there were things about my body that I knew I couldn't live with. So I remember thinking, the medical field today, they could change someone from a man into a woman or from a woman into a man, but they can't help me. Because like I said, I didn't realize there were options for people. I didn't realize people like me even existed. And that made me so mad. I would sit in my room and cry. They were angry tears because I felt like forgotten, ignored. I felt frustrated with my family, but they didn't know. Actually, they did know. My family knew I wanted to do these medical procedures. And they always kind of wrote it off as just a phase. I didn't care if I wasn't allowed to dress a certain way or if I had to keep my hair a certain way. But thinking that I couldn't choose what to do with my body and that it had to stay a certain way, it was unbearable. So for me, coming out happened pretty much the same way that calling my doctors for medical transition did, which is within probably a few days of discovering what non-binary was, I was telling people about it. So I called my dad first, and his reaction was more or less, "I'm so glad you finally felt comfortable telling me." Apparently he'd figured it out a while before. And then I told my brother after that, and he didn't understand at first because we'd actually had some conversations in the past. Like, he struggled to understand transgender, but he didn't understand like neo-pronouns and all these other genders. Because I remember growing up, I had just seen a lot of genders on Tumblr, and I will say I was one of the people who was confused by them, thought like there can't possibly be this many, like why are people doing this? But when I told him, I'd done research now, I'd watched YouTube videos, I got on Facebook with a more open mind. And so I was able to talk to him about it, and he came around pretty quickly. So I remember when I'd first asked him to use a nickname when I was in high school, he was not on board with that. None of my friends were, none of my family was. So I thought, I'll tell him that, I'm non-binary and that I'm going to medically transition, but he probably won't be cool with changing my name and pronouns, because that doesn't seem like him. But within a week, within a few days, he was making an effort. And I'd say within a week, he'd probably stopped getting it wrong altogether. So after that, I told my other siblings, and and they were all on board. They were really supportive. They didn't screw up at all. My mom found out last. I was really stressed. I didn't want to tell her. I was kind of hoping I could just fly under the radar and see how long it took her to notice. But I knew that if I got surgeries or started hormone therapies, she'd clue in, and she had the type of personality where she felt I was deliberately hiding something from her, which I would have been. Then it would be a worse reaction than if I just came out and told her. So the initial conversation with my mom went very poorly. We got into a big argument, and she told me I was not thinking things through and making a bad decision, and that it was very spontaneous. There was definitely a lot of painful conversations and emotions and discussions that happened between us. And there was definitely more than a few times where I thought, like, this is it. She's going to cut me off. I'm going to cut her off. Like, this relationship is not going to continue. She got over it quickly. She called me within a few weeks and started talking about it. And then after that, she started doing her own research independent of me. And she was sending me videos by non-binary YouTubers asking me questions like, is this you? Does this describe you? Is this your experience? And so we started being able to have a conversation about it. From then on, it's like every week she does something that surprises me. I know as a kid growing up, I'd always wanted to use nicknames, and it made her really upset. She felt like she put a lot of thought into my name, and I was also named after someone who had been very important to her. So the most significant thing for me was when she started calling me a name that I preferred. And then even more shocking was when she started using my gender neutral pronouns. So I didn't expect her to ever accept me, but honestly, within a month, she was giving it her best effort, and her best effort has turned into genuine support. Things did eventually go well with everyone. I'd say coming out to the world, like coming up publicly, has not inherently made things harder, but if anything, it's made things a little bit easier. But coming out to myself has made a lot of my dysphoria worse, and it's given me a lot of regret. Just funny, because like I said, I'm pretty young, and I know a lot of people take much longer to kind of discover this. But I've always had this feeling that I'm wasting my life, because I took a few extra years for high school, I took a few extra years for college, and all this time, I feel this immense pressure of time, thinking I'm wasting my life. I'm running out of time to accomplish anything. I look at the accomplishments of like teenagers and kids in their young 20s, and I think, look at all they've done, and I'm so much older and I've done nothing. So I have a lot of impending doom hanging over me, feeling like my life is almost over. So I do know that I'm sitting here looking back going, this isn't a surprise. This isn't new. Everyone saw it coming. All the signs were there. I should have put the pieces together. So I think a lot, how would my life have been different if I'd gone on hormone blockers? What if I'd tried to get surgery years ago? What if I'd known this about myself? I had teachers at school pulled me aside and asked me, what pronouns do you prefer? And I was like, why are you asking me that? Like, don't ask me those questions. And yeah, I had a lot of visceral pushing it away for so long that now that I am accepting it, I'm mad that I didn't do it sooner, which retrospectively is a bit of a privileged thing to say, that like the most upsetting thing about coming out is that I didn't do it sooner, but it's true. The most upsetting thing about coming out is that I didn't do it sooner. It's hard to pinpoint any one way that coming out has made things better. It's more of an overall feeling. It's like my life has somehow changed, which it has, but it's difficult to really say how or why. I got a legal name change. I got my gender markers changed. And I remember thinking when I got my name changed, I didn't think it would be a big deal because I've been going by, a different name my whole life. And when I got the paperwork, I got so scared. I was like, did they say no? Did I spend weeks stressing? I was like, how long is it supposed to take to get it back? What are they going to say? And when I sat down on my bed and opened it, I just started crying. There were hard parts where I know after coming out to myself, I somehow felt that I see myself this way now. It's so obvious. Of course, the rest of the world will. It didn't occur to me that the entire world wouldn't be on the same page. So I remember I got a new job at one point, and I went in there like fully presenting as non-binary. I had a pronoun pin. I used my new name on my application, and I just immediately got misgendered the whole time. And I did not have the confidence to tell them. I just sat there and I was like, oh, the world doesn't know. Why did I think they would know? So that was kind of a wake-up call. It's like, just because you and your family know, the world's not going to see you differently right away. Like, they don't care how you feel. They just care how you look, and that's what they're going to go off of. So that was hard. One thing that changed is how I look. I used to present very firmly the opposite gender of what I was because I did not like being gendered. And I thought, well, if people are going to do it anyway, I want them to do it this way. And now that I kind of understand myself better, I don't feel the need to do that. I'm happy to just wear whatever I want, to do what makes me happy, to look how I want to look. So growing up, like as a teenager, a lot of everything I did was to put on a front and to look a certain way to the rest of the world. And it's like all of that is gone now. I'm so comfortable just being me. I've stopped taking medication for anxiety and depression, and I felt better than I ever have. I heard all these anecdotes about people who suffered from anxiety and depression their whole life, and then they started transitioning and it got a lot better because a lot of that unacknowledged feelings was what was causing, they was the root of the anxiety and the depression. And I remember thinking, well, that won't happen to me because this isn't why, I've been anxious and depressed since I was a tiny kid. Like, I don't like my gender, but I don't think it's killing me. Turns out it kind of was killing me. And since coming out and starting to do all these social and physical changes, I feel better. I feel healthier even. My family says I smile more. There are days where I wake up and I think I'm happy, I'm doing well. One day I was cleaning my kitchen and I stopped, and in my head I thought, I'm thriving. And I've never thought that before in my life, but almost every day I can sit there and go, I'm thriving. So I grew up very afraid of taking risks and very afraid of changes. So I had very little confidence in myself. I had a lot of body image issues, which led to other confidence issues, but overall I was not a confident little child. And ever since making this one major decision, it's like everything about myself has opened up. I have made a lot of decisions I would have never made in the past. I feel like my life has just begun. I feel like before I was waiting for my life to end, which is literally true. I had no plans to end it myself, but every day I woke up and thought, if I get hit by a car today, there's nothing that I'll regret about it. Whereas now I realized I had a severe depressive episode just a few days or weeks back. And even in the midst of it, I thought to myself, I have to get out of this because I have things to look forward to. I'm getting my driver's license, which I did my written test at 16 and let it expire because I was afraid to set foot inside a car. And now I plan on living in a van and traveling all of North and South America because I've always wanted to see the world. So one of the most important things I think people can do is not just let people experiment, but encourage it. When I was a kid, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't know this about myself sooner. And as a kid, all the signs were there, but I didn't recognize them. And the people around me didn't recognize them. And the people around me were very invested in the community, but it feels like when I was amongst them, I got overlooked. And I think it's so important that we just normalize these things, because even if something is just a phase, or if something is just someone experimenting, there's no harm in that. If I'd had this information sooner, if I'd known about these possibilities, they don't teach it in school. Most parents don't talk about it unless you have a friend or a family member who's openly part of the LGBTQ community. It's generally swept under the rug, and you grow up not knowing what options exist. I think this information should just be available for people, because having the information doesn't make you a certain way. It just gives you possibilities to pursue if that's what you want to do. I'm really excited about my future, which I never thought I would say.
Hey everyone, thank you for following the Trans Canada Project on YouTube. We hope you're enjoying the stories. YouTube has a suggested video up here you can follow, and we would suggest maybe you check out this one. And don't forget, please like the video if you liked it and subscribe. It really helps us out, it helps us share these stories with more people. So thank you, bye!